Welcome to Pixels and Profit, where we unpack how AI is shaping the way businesses create, communicate, and compete. I'm Martin, we are Allegiant AI, and today we're diving into one of the most visually powerful shifts in tech, AI image generation. If you've been wondering what tools like Chat GPT40, Ideogram, Flux, midjourney, and so on mean for your business strategy, stick around. I'm joined by Gill, who's been tracking the latest in AI-generated imagery, from practical business use cases to ethical conversations around this subject. Jill, welcome. What's the most
Hello.
surprising thing you've seen in this space?
Well, I don't know if it's surprising, but I think the speed of change has been amazing. That's been quite, and the things that you can do with image generation. I think even there are things that we can do that we never really even expected to be able to do. I think you've been talking about, and you have made one of these little dolls that have taken the socials by storm. That everybody puts a photo of themselves or their loved one if they're feeling like they want to give their loved one a particularly lovely gift of an image of them as a doll. And this has just gone viral, hasn't it? And actually now I saw that the chap that created them has now created one that is a slight movie, so they climb out the box, which is a little creepy. But anyway, sorry, I've gone off in one, haven't I? What's surprising? Well, that was surprising when the dolls started coming out the box, that's for sure.
Let me ask you then, because one of the things, I mean, yes, like you say, it's gone viral. People repackaged the toy dolls. Gimmick, pointless, or actually useful in business in any way?
I think for these kind of things, they can be attention grabbing, but something like that, it was attention grabbing and then it went into quite quickly, didn't it? Because everybody jumped on the trends, didn't they? I think that they can be useful for grabbing attention. I think if you think about marketing itself, the first thing you want to do in ADA, if you like, is grab attention. So if you can use these tools to somehow grab attention for your business, then I think that's absolutely okay. But you have to not live in that moment, which I think some people, for that trend particularly, they lived in that moment a little too long. So just for fun, that's fine. But as a business, you need to be moving on to the next attention grabber pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, I think that probably makes sense. So, I know you've been looking at imagery, etc.
Hmm.
Have you got some things that you can tell us about, show us?
Yeah, I got a couple of things to show you. I just wanted to show you what was the latest free tools that people can just start using in their business and in real life. Not the business in real life, straight away. And the first thing was that there's been a really amazing update by ChatGPT, and in it's 4.0, isn't it? The image generation used to be well, the in ChatGPT in general, the image generation was shocking, and they used to use DALL-E, and it just was rubbish. And so I personally started to use another tool called Ideogram, which was really, really good at the time. It was really, and so good that I started paying for it. But actually, interestingly, ChatGPT came back in with something really good as well. And then there's another tool that I'm going to share with you afterwards. So what I want to show you is that, when I've been using Ideogram, I've been getting more and more sophisticated with prompting to get better and better images. But what I want to show you is how easy it is in ChatGPT to generate a really good image. So all I did, I'm going to share my screen, which has a really easy prompt that anybody could have made up. You don't have to have gone to prompt university to do that. Have I shared the right screen? Is that all?
I can see a what looks like a business lady.
Ah, right, great. That's exactly the right screen then. It usually puts a green line around it, but it's not doing that today. Anyway, okay, so here's my prompt here. I've just asked for it to do a photorealistic image of a businesswoman walking through a city and making the city slightly blurred. I think we can all get the idea of what I was looking for there. And here's what they've come up with. Now, as you can see, they've done exactly what I've said. The businesswoman, she has all her fingers, presumably her toes, though we can't see them. The cityscape is behind it. Interestingly, they always seem to use an American style, and you can tell that because the taxis are always yellow, aren't they? So, um, but this is what it created here. And I ran the exact same prompt through my ideogram, and here's the one that it gave. So this was quite it's a kind of zoomed out perspective, and I kind of like that better. So I went back and I asked ChatGPT to zoom out and give me can you please zoom out and show her full height and regenerate? And it did. It did. So I've got her shoes. Still can't see her toes, but she's got her shoes on and still looks good. So I thought that was pretty good, although I still actually like the perspective of this. So you could continue to work on that and change the perspective. But I wanted to try the new kid on the block, or the one that I found that is particularly new. And that's something that's coming out of Google Labs called Image FX. And again, this is just, it's given me four, just to let you show what it's given me for the exact same prompt. It's given me these lovely four scenes, and you can see that they're coming at different angles. These ones are walking to the sides, these are walking straight towards the camera angle. It's given me slightly different cityscapes, which is brilliant. But there's a couple of issues with it, and I don't know if you can see what they are, Martin.
Let's see. Well, I suppose one of them you might say that all of the business ladies are slim.
They are.
Might be one
Yeah.
of the issues that you're thinking of,
Yep. Yep.
perhaps. We've already touched on the American backgrounds. That's easy to rectify just by putting it
Mm.
into your prompt that you want,
Yes. Correct.
Glasgow's your background or whatever. So, what else are you thinking about, Jill?
Well, I think that they're all, pretty, I would say above average attractiveness, I would say. I would say that none of these outputs is there anybody that has any below average attractiveness, any disability or scarring or anything irregular about their features, and like you say about their body shape. Their body shapes are all very standard, very slim. I think there are definite positives about what we see today than what we would have seen maybe a year ago, in that all their chests are staying in their blouses, they're not bursting out. They used to give us big buxom ladies, didn't they? That's not so bad. And actually, there's a good bit of diversity with this, which is also very positive. Um, yeah, and these shoes, I think they take this imagery from maybe Hollywood or online stuff, but a normal, like I certainly couldn't wear those height of shoes, that is for sure. But I think it's interesting, isn't it? So if you are using these images, which you could do, you could use them straight as they are into some of your communication, like your website, your socials, your leaflets, whatever it is you're using your communication from. You could just download these and use them. However, you've got to think about, how would your ideal clients feel about this imagery on your website? They're landing on your website for the first time, and this is the imagery that they're seeing. Are they going to see themselves? Are they going to see, this is my tribe, this is where I belong? I don't know. I think you might have to go further with your prompting to get uh, just the right look and feel for that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. You've demonstrated how easy it is with a very simple prompt. So it's taken some what it might say as default values.
Mm,
Um, and I think using imagery that's appropriate for whoever you're trying to attract is incredibly important, whether you're using AI or not. Um, I suppose the interesting thing is for us here with stock imagery, which is what we've always used beforehand, unless you've
mm,
got your own, images that you've gone out and and photographed yourself or taken, somebody's taken headshots for you, etc., is that with these generated images, if you do start putting more into your prompts, you can start introducing more of what you want. So,
Yeah.
in your prompt, actually say, you want somebody of a certain age, of a certain height, of a certain weight, ethnicity, and so on and so forth. And it will produce characters like that. Because just to state the obvious, but to make sure, none of these ladies actually exist, do they, Jill? They're not like something it's copied off the internet. They're all brand new generations.
Yes, that's correct. That is correct. They do not exist in real life. No actual people were photographed in the making of these images. So,
Okay, so this leads me on to another question that you said that you can just take these images and put them on your website, on your socials, etc. What's
hmm,
the situation with copyright?
I'm going to stop sharing while we chat.
Mm,
Um, Yeah, that's a really good question, Martin. Copyright is one of these things that's trying to catch up with imagery and creativity at the moment because of the AI generation stuff. But so far as I understand it at the moment, if you take the images and you change them in some way, you can claim copyright on them. Otherwise, you can't.
okay, so in other words, if you used, for example, ChatGPT, which is owned by OpenAI, that's the company name,
Yeah,
and you just take one of their generations and do nothing to it,
yeah.
then there's an argument that perhaps they own the copyright rather than you do.
Well, that's an interesting point, and I don't actually know the answer to that. I shall Google that, but I would think that the AI owns, and if they own the AI, perhaps that is the truth of the matter. Or maybe that it cannot be copyrighted at all, and that's, because it's generated. I don't know
Yeah,
if you know
it's
any more about that.
I think you're up with the latest, which is nobody knows.
Yeah,
The lawyers are trying to catch
work
up
it out. Yeah.
and decide, whether you can copyright an image
Mm,
that has just been generated. It's not being copied.
mm,
And the other aspect, of course, is you used a basic prompt there. You didn't say, for example, could have a picture of a businesswoman in a city setting done in the style of David Hockney, for argument's sake.
mm,
It would still be generated. It would still be a
mm,
brand new image. It won't have been painted by David Hockney. But if it's using his style and his technique, it's going to go off
mm,
and say, well, what can I find on the internet done by David Hockney? And okay, I understand what you want the look to be.
mm,
AI now need to recreate that look.
mm.
You then get into those questions about, well, you know, is that fair to David Hockney and so on. Um, that's still very much, I mean, we're talking mid 2025 now as we record this. That's very much in the mix. It's not clear.
Mm.
Yeah, it's an interesting one to look at. I would suggest at the moment, if you are creating images and you are not saying, I want them in the style of whoever,
Mm.
then you're probably okay to put them on your website and socials at the moment, with the caveat in all of these things that I'm not a lawyer. So,
Do you
that may
remember?
change.
Yeah, I mean, this reminds me of when you used to go into shop when, maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago, and there'd be the music playing and it'd be popular music from the radio, but it would be done by somebody else. And there would always be a section in it that just sounded a little off because they changed it to make it so they didn't breach copyright. Do you remember that? Or is that just me? I'm showing my age maybe there. But they used to do that back
Yeah,
in
I'm
the
not
day.
sure, but I mean, even nowadays, recently, Ed Sheeran, Taylor Swift, they've all been
Mm,
taken to court for allegedly,
yeah,
taking somebody else's piece of music, and they're going, well, that was inspiration, not
yeah,
copying. You know,
yeah.
obviously we're talking creative, so it's a difficult thing. Just one quick thing on the flip side. I mean, talking about things that went viral, the little toy dolls. The other one was cartoon people created in a cartoon style of something called Studio Ghibli, which is
Mm,
a style of cartoon. Now, I had never heard of Studio
No, me
Ghibli
neither.
4 weeks ago. Now it's right at the top of my consciousness because I saw all of these things and people are talking about, well, this is unfair on Studio Ghibli because they didn't create all of this. They're getting, no reward for any of this. Um, and that's true. But I think the other side of the argument is I am now one of a lot of people, potentially millions of people, who have heard of them, who'd never heard of them before, who are now checking out what they do. So, it's a kind of swings and roundabouts thing that we need to think about. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
I
No.
mean, the ethics bit is almost a conversation in itself, but
Yeah, we could go on. We could go
yeah,
on.
yeah. But at least hopefully we've teased out some things on both sides of the argument there, to start people discussion and discussing and thinking about. Um, I've got a couple of image examples as well. Is there anything else that you'd like to show us before
No,
before?
carry on. Carry on.
Yeah. Okay, let me click on to share and let's go for this one. Hopefully you can see that.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a lady in a red skirt. I've used as Jill did a basic prompt of can you create a lady in a red skirt? And here she is. Now, just imagine that you are a business that manufactures garments, and you want some product placement pictures, and suddenly you think, okay, well, actually, what I now want is a blue skirt. I just want to check. Can you see blue now, Jill?
And not
Not yet.
still
Okay.
red, still red.
All right. Let me just flick the share bit and go here. How's that?
Give us a sec. There we go. Yep, blue
Yeah.
now. Yeah,
So you can see it's the same lady.
yeah.
And as we talked before, I mean, about fingers and things, I'll come on to that in a second. But now she's wearing a blue skirt. Now, that's always been possible to do, well, since the advent of Photoshop and things like that. But what was interesting here is I typed into, in this case, it was Chat GPT, please change the red skirt to blue. Literally that. Nothing technical, just plain English words. Um, and it did. So
Mm.
just imagine that, from your company perspective, if it doesn't have to be obviously clothing, you could have some brand or something. Here we go, this thing. And you want to put that into the picture, you can just add it into the picture. So now your products can be placed in all sorts of different places. It really is an amazing opportunity to be able to put your products in different environments
Mm.
and think about, okay, if you've got more than one target audience, might it resonate more with target audience A in this situation or B in that situation? Or indeed, if you just want to do some A/B testing between one thing and another and see what's possible, it's a lot easier than it used to be, I suppose, is the message I'm going to try and get over. One thing that
Definitely.
was a problem, a big problem until 3, 4 weeks ago, was whenever you regenerated an image, it changed it. So the woman in the blue skirt didn't look like the woman in the red skirt, which drew away from the fact that what you're trying to draw attention to is the skirt.
Mm.
But now you could see from those two images it's the same woman. So that consistency opens up all sorts of possibilities for us. Would it be okay if I just shared one more with you, Jill?
Go on then, as long as you're quick.
All right, then. You're so
Yeah,
good. You're so good to me.
I know. I think that's that it used to frustrate the bejingles out of me that every time you wanted to just change one little thing, the whole thing changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, look. That's
Okay.
so cute. Look at
I
that.
guess you're looking at the gorilla and not the guy there.
Not the monkey, no.
So the reason for showing you this is because of a couple of things. One, if you've looked at some things generated by AI a few months ago and thought they're just not very good, and then maybe not come back to it, what you may not realize is the speed with which it's improved. So if we look at the hands, for example, on the guy, not only has it got the correct number of fingers, which was always a classic thing, but I don't know if you can see that zooming in now, can you?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
I mean, we've got the veins,
Mm.
contours, we've got the lines, all the rest of it.
Wrinkles, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's very realistic. And talking about realistic, look at the gorilla. You can see the individual hairs that make
Mm.
up, on the gorilla's arm. And you can see the expressiveness in the eyes and even some reflection in the eyes. It's absolutely amazing.
Mm.
Now, there were two reasons for just quickly showing you that. One was just to show that, it has moved on a lot, but two, to say, even though you can produce good pictures and with a basic prompt, as we saw with with you doing with the business ladies,
Mm.
if you do go to prompt university, uh, you can go from good pictures to really excellent pictures. Um,
Mm.
this one, for example, in the prompt, it reflected what a professional photographer would have used in order to produce this photo. So the type of camera, the type of lens, the lighting that you're using, all the other things that a professional photographer would take into account in order to get a really great picture.
Mm.
And that's one thing perhaps to touch on as well is we sometimes think that these things are going to replace um, professions and jobs that people have already got. And whilst
Mm.
that might be true for some things,
Mm.
it's quite interesting that if you are already a professional in that field and you start to use these tools, you will produce way better copy than, an amateur like you or I, who
Mm.
may be good at using the tool,
Mm.
but we're not a professional photographer. Uh,
Mm.
and I know you've been kind of at the forefront of producing one of the first tools that Allegiant have produced, which produces content, and immediately, you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to put copywriters out of business.
Mm.
And yet, what was the profession of the first person who brought the tool, Jill?
Copywriter. Yeah.
Why? Why?
Interesting, isn't it? I think
Hmm.
that, so that in terms of a copywriter, I mean, and this is probably, I could generalize this, but in terms of the copywriter and the actual tool that we produce, there's a whole bunch of stuff that they do before they even start writing. So that's about their understanding of who they're writing for and the research that they do. They need to understand what tone, what messaging, what imagery, both uh, as in physical pictures and imagery and writing, they need to use for their client's client, if you like. Their client's ideal client is who they're actually writing for. And if nobody knows their ideal client like the actual business owner, but if you're trying to get yourself into that person's business, then you've got to do that really quickly as a copywriter. And that's part of their time that they take up to do a job. So what the tool that we produced was to be able to identify their ideal client avatars as quickly as possible and give them a whole bunch of pain points, goal themes of the ideal client so they can get right into writing and producing content that is very specific for that business's ideal client. So for them, it means they can get further down the road much quicker and much more cost-effective way. And that will be the same for your photographer. If for them to set up the right lighting, get the most expensive camera, doing the right setting. I'm not a photographer, I don't know all this, but I imagine there's a lot of dials and whizzy bits that they must set up. And the setup itself probably takes quite a long time. Then there's the hiring, the set, the getting people there, all that massive amount of money. If they can do that all in AI, they're going to just shorten that and reduce their costs so they can get top quality output much, much faster and much more cost effective using AI and using the correct tools for the job from AI.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We're actually seeing that happen. So the areas where jobs are perhaps perceived to be threatened by AI um, can also be enhanced by AI. I think one of the things that probably we'll see is um, at the moment, if you are not very good graphic designer, for example, um, you're still better than you or I, who are hobbyists at
Mm.
that. If you're a good graphic designer, you're much better than us. With improved tools, we can become bad graphic designers. Um, so we're
I'm
now on a
not
par
sure
with,
that's how I want to be perceived, but there we
well,
go.
yeah, but you know what I mean. I mean, we're now on a par with the people who have probably got the lower skill set in that
Mm.
particular profession. Um, and if they do nothing, we'll overtake them because the tools
Mm.
are improving all the time.
Yeah.
And so, yes, their job is threatened.
Mm.
Um, what can they do about it? Start using the tools as well, because then they'll level up and they'll continue to be above, the amateurs. It's not our
Mm.
profession. We obviously use
Mm.
graphic designers because we both happen to be website builders, but graphic designer is not what we do 24 hours a day for our job, etc. Um, so I think everybody, and the good graphic designers, if they use the tools, they'll become superb graphic designers, and so we go on.
Mm.
And obviously the people who don't use them at all are potentially going to struggle because
Mm.
we're getting better tools. It's the same with, cars, for example. Um, we used to have cars that we drove, and then we got cars with
What
cruise
do we do with
control.
them now, Martin?
Well,
Ah,
but we got
yeah.
ones with cruise control now, haven't we? So I mean,
Yeah.
you don't have to touch the pedals once you've got cruise control on, and everybody just kind of accepts that as normal. And now, this year's cars I've got adaptive cruise control on, which will again look at how fast the car in front of you is going and change the speed of the car, and you haven't touched anything. And
Mm.
again, people are like, oh, okay, yeah. So those are just tools in something that we use every day, and we accept that they're getting better. This is the same thing. This is everyday stuff. It doesn't have to be driving a car, but it's doing whatever we're talking about. It could be copywriting, graphic design, photography. The list goes on and on and on. So it's really interesting, how we get into using
Tell you
those
what,
tools.
can I just take you back a little bit to
Mm.
the whole thing about you talked about leveling up skill sets, but I think as a business owner, there's an even more important outcome from that, and that is the cost saving, the efficiency within your business, the ability to make more money with less. And you and I have talked about this before, the single person businesses are able to generate more and more revenue than ever before because, in the past, one person could only do so much. Now, one person can do a heck of a lot more because of these tools, can't they?
They can, yes. And again, it's about for each individual business getting that balance between being able to do more, but still being able to maintain a level of quality that
Yeah.
competes with the rest of the market. So, it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes. Okay, so for some closing kind of thoughts around imagery, etc. What messages can you leave us with, Jill?
I'd say get out there, start prompting, start using the tools that are there. If you're already using ChatGPT, that's a great place to start. If you've given up on it because it was so rubbish before, give it another go. I would say get into the Google Lab stuff. Keep an eye on that because there's some really good stuff comes out there. There's but also give the image FX a go because I was really impressed with it and I'm gonna start using it for a bit. I might stop paying my money to the other one because there's no point. So yeah, get out there and do it and experiment with it.
Yeah, I think that's really solid advice. Some of these tools are free, some of them are low cost monthly subscriptions. Um, and it's been proven that AI imagery is the thing that has really caught people's attention of all the different things that AI can do. And so although OpenAI, who produced Chat GPT, have made a massive leap forward, their competitors like Google, and many other ones, more established players like midjourney, etc., are now doing that as well. And we're seeing this leapfrog all the time.
Mm.
This one's the best, this one's the best.
Yeah.
So get out there, give it a go. If you want some particular advice on, what's the latest thing, then please do get in touch. Drop us a line. This is the sort of stuff that we're living and breathing every day. And on the same sort of thing, please like, subscribe the channel. There's so many things that we could be sharing with you and telling you. We're really interested to see which ones are best for you. And leave a comment either on the down below on YouTube, or send us an email. Get in touch however you like. We'd love to see how we can help you best. Jill, thank you so much for your lovely imagery, and we will be back again soon. Take care, listeners. Bye bye.
You guys, bye.